I think one of the things all of us can agree on is that the skill and the process of critical thinking is something that we want all of our students to learn. So in each of my courses, regardless of what I'm teaching, I have a module with some assignments related specifically to critical thinking, and each one is a little bit different based on what the course is. I want to go through what I try to do to expose students to critical thinking and to develop, at least on some basic level, some techniques on how to be a critical thinker. So I use the OER textbook, Critical Thinking's A Student's Introduction. This is the same textbook I'll be using to teach a one credit course on critical thinking starting in the fall of 2025. So I want to start with, this is how I start with my students. This is actually a slide from that lesson, a definition of what critical thinking is. This is my definition. I've tried to boil it down to its most basic parts. So that's how I define critical thinking for my students. My next step is based on the textbook, and I think for this case it's important that there is a textbook behind it because there are so many different ways to approach critical thinking. I provide them with an overview of the 5 barriers from the textbook to critical thinking, and then I go through those in a lesson as I help them prepare for whatever assignment I have created for them. In this case, it is a discussion board, but this is the list of 5 barriers. And then on the next slide, I'll show you I add a 6th, which comes from my own experience and my time teaching a course on disinformation at Gonzaga and just basically experience in journalism over nearly 40 years. Here's my enhancement. A 6th barrier to critical thinking. I think the connection there is fairly obvious, but I provide them with some background on how misinformation and disinformation are different, but how each of them contributes to being a barrier to critical thinking, and I want them to start thinking about how that all works. Here's where I break my own rule on creating slides for PowerPoint or any other type of slide presentation. This is a description of the assignment, the discussion board assignment that I make for my students to talk about critical thinking. After they've watched my lesson, after they've done some thinking about it, then I have them engage in a conversation on critical thinking on the discussion board. So obviously this can be done in class live. It can be done a variety of ways. I don't intend for this to be the epitome of how to teach critical thinking, but my point is there are a lot of ways to do it. I think that it applies to all topics, all subjects. It's a basic, durable skill that I think all of our students need to be exposed to, get better at, and get specific teaching about, because when we think of critical thinking, we can be all over the map, and I think we need to help our students focus and learn the techniques.